Hello viewers, welcome back. We are now looking at the global units. Now, one of the first things that we are going to do in this course, we are going to make sure at least we put global units mark. In other words, we are going to have our currency and we are going to insert the currency that we are going to be using in our financial model. And the reason why we are putting out to be using the dollar currency is because we want to make these financial models a bit globally than using the local currency that we may decide to be using in our, let's say, in our financial statements and all that. But as per the global aspect, we need to maybe to just adjust a little bit, and we take up the dollar currency as our preferred units. So now what we are going to do in this cell right here, this is where we are going to put our global units, and it is in the cell B5, and it's where we are going to put our global units marker. We are going to just pop up into this cell. You can use the F2 key to be in that cell. So we are in that cell B5. It's where we are going to type our global units marker. We are going to say it's going to be all figures in USD thousands unless stated. We are going to assume that all figures are going to be in thousands US dollars. So we've typed in that information as our global units marker. All figures in USD thousands unless stated. If you want, you can also just copy it somewhere and you paste it there, but we prefer to type it so that we can be able to have that inserted there. So that's our global units marker, and we have put it there, so it's going to help us to get started, because there is no way we are going to proceed handling our financial model when we are not sure which currency that we are working in. So now let's start off with some keyboard shortcuts. We actually want this to be in italic. We want to make this subheading, the whole of it, let it be in italic format. We have it in italic. So we can use the shortcut that is going to help us turn that. That is Control I. The shortcut that is going to help us to make that change to italics format. Now we can see by looking up here, of course we are seeing the things that have been changed to italic format. But now we want also to change something. Let's go to home section of the ribbon. Let's have this displayed. Let's have the ribbon displayed. Let it be displayed. So when we can see, if we go to the home section of the ribbon, we can see that this is Open Sans format. This the font style that we have, it is Open Sans. That is the font that we are using. And we can also see that the font size is 10 from there. But if we want to change this font size, we can actually change it, and we can also change the font style that we are using. But for now, let's try to adjust the font size by using our keyboard shortcut. So we want to go into font size, so we press Alt key, and when you press the Alt key, it's going to bring those new letters that you are seeing on the screen, and we are going to select home, H for home, because our font size is within the home section of the ribbon. So we select H for home, and then we have also to go ahead and select, because now we can see up here, and we select the Alt key and H for home, Alt key, H for home. Then we are looking for the font size. We can see right up here that now we have FS for font size. And when you do that, it highlights the font size, that font size 10. So we need to just put any font size that we want. Let's adjust it to 9. And then we hit enter. We've tried to change that to 9 as our font size because we want it to be a little bit smaller, because we have also other information that is already in a font size of 10. So we are making it a bit smaller. Then these are some of the ways how we can be able to format our financial model to look a little bit professional. So we have just reduced the font a little bit smaller to 9. Now you may be wondering why we use this global units marker here, because in these normal accounting preparations, you find that most of the times the figures and the currency symbols, they are always stuck into these, maybe these periods. They have been put up here in the heading, but for us we've decided to have our global units marker here in that cell B5. And the reason, because as I said, a lot of people, what they do, actually even by default in Excel, what we normally do is that we find these figures that you are seeing down here. We just use the currency on these same cells. We put the currency sign or the dollar sign, whichever currency that we are going to be using, within the cells. And how do we do that? We just come here, you highlight in the cell that you want, then you come here and change the currency. You can change it to a currency and you put in the currency symbol. That's how things are always done in Excel. But we want to discourage this because we want our model to look a little bit professional. That's why we are choosing to have our currency symbol in one cell that is going to be representing all the figures, meaning all the figures are going to be using that one currency. So we've finished that. That's our global units mark. But now, opposite this, we have these headings. We are seeing we have different headings, and these headings, they are the ones that we put as our periods. We now need to take a look at those headings, all these periods, all these years that are across to the different columns of our spreadsheet or of our financial model, because these headings, all these periods, all the years that are forming the different segments that we have, we need also to change them, because now we need to make sure that at least these figures are going to be a little bit dynamic. Because if you just change it a little bit this cell, because now we are in cell F5, and now we want to make sure that at least when we change this year, the whole of these years, they are going to be adjusted automatically. And for us to be able to have that in place, we need to make sure that our model is dynamic. So let's pop into this cell F5 that has a value of 2022. So if you want to pop into this cell, we use the F2 key, and that's how we can be able to go into the cell. Any cell, if you want to go inside that very cell, you use the F2 key, and you'll have the cursor displayed in that very cell. So for this F5, we are going to use the F2 key to pop into that cell. So that's the keyboard instead of using the mouse, because you can also use the mouse to enter a given cell. You can just double click in it and it will have that cursor displayed. So instead of us using the mouse, we prefer to use the keyboard. That's why you select the cell you want and you press F2 key to get into that cell. So we've been able to get into that cell by hitting the F2 key. That's the keyboard shortcut that we use to get into a cell. And if you want to get out of that cell, you use the escape key. When you click the escape key, you'll find that you are getting off the cell. So that's how we can be able to get in and get out of a given cell. But it depends. So you may find some versions of Excel, they are not going to be required to have you clicking on the F2 to be inside that given cell. So back to 2022, cell F5, hit the F2 key to be within that cell, just like that. And what we are going to do, we can see that if you get into a given cell, you find that you are going to be seeing the figures that are going to be inside. So we get into the F5, we can be able to see that we have 2022. If we get into the G5, we shall be able to see the value of 2023. So those are the values that we have. But now the challenge with these values are not dynamic. They are not dynamic at all. In other words, if you change, if maybe there is something you wanted to add just from this model, like you wanted to start from maybe 2023 going forward, you can find that if you do it here, it means if you change this to 2023, you'll have to change all these other values, meaning the model itself is not dynamic. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that this model is dynamic, that if we change one point, the rest of the points are going to be automatically changed. So in fact, if you want to roll this model forward by, let's say, 1 year, because we may decide that instead of forecasting to 2028, let's forecast to 20, we add one extra year of maybe 2029. You'll find that you will need to have that model as dynamic as it should be, so that you can be able to have everything generated automatically. So now let's try to leave this F5 as 2022. But now what we are going to do is that we are going to leave this 2022 as our actual. We use it as our actual input. So what we are going to do, we have to go to this second cell here, G5, that has 2023. So we want to make it automatic. We just put an equal sign there. We start from the F5 plus 1, because we're just increasing these years. just hit enter. That's going to give us 2023. So we've seen we have adjusted. We are trying to put in formulas to be able to have some of these automatically generated, or we have them as dynamic as the model is supposed to be, for us to be able to make changes as we want. So now we can now go into this cell and make sure that we copy the formula across, because now we are not going to, because if at all we are going to use the mouse, we could just drag this throughout to have all this filled up just like that. But that's not what we are going to do, because we are more emphasizing on the use of the keyboard than using the mouse. So what we are going to do is we are going to copy the formula all the way across. And now there are different ways that we can be able to copy the formula, and we'll paste it all the way. So what we are going to do, or the first scenario that we can use, is by doing a regular copy, like the way we do Control C, and we can see those little dots, those dotted lines, they are moving all over that cell G5, meaning that cell has been copied. So now what we are going to use, we are going to use the shift key to highlight across. So we come here and say, we click shift, then we highlight across using our left arrow. We move like this, like this, like this, until we finish the ones that we wanted to do. So we have highlighted across using the shift key, shift plus the left arrow. And now we can do a normal paste, the same we've been doing pasting, Control V, meaning we just paste it, but here we are not pasting the figures that we copied, but we are pasting the formula throughout. That's why we had to highlight the whole of the values that we are going to forecast. So that's one of the ways that we can be able to have that made dynamic. So in this case, we are seeing that our model is going to be a little bit dynamic, because if we change one, it's going to also change the rest of the values that we have. So as you can see, the forecast starts from this point 2022, and it goes up to 2028. But now if we change the first year, this first year of 2022, to be maybe 2023, let's pop up into this cell by using the F2 key, and we try to change that to 2023. We press enter. You'll find the model is going to be adjusted, and it will go all the way to 2029. So it's much more dynamic, because if we add just one point, we are going to see that everything is going to be changing at once. So let's put this back to 2022. Just we hit the F2 key, then we change this to 2022. Let's enter, just like that. So we are back. We are forecasting from 2022 to 2028. So the global units marker is now in place and is formatted here. You can see we have made all the formattings for that. And over here, we have a much more dynamic model now, because we have all these periods, they are being linked together to each other, because we are seeing whenever we adjust the model, we are going to find that it's going to have that information popped up as much dynamic as we wanted it to be. So next is something that we are going to look at in the next video is going to be about the border controls. We are going to take a look at how we can adjust the formatting of these years. First, we are going to look at formatting these years because we have just made the model dynamic, but we haven't done any formatting. So we need to also to see how we can adjust the formatting in these years to make them communicate a little bit better and clean professional information as we wanted it to be. So we need to clean it up so that it helps the viewer to actually understand some of the things that we are supposed to do. So the next video is going to be looking at the border controls, and we'll be looking at how we can adjust the formatting of those different periods to make sure that they are going to be easy for the viewer to get that professionalism, or the when it looks a bit clean and fine to everyone who is going to be having a look at the document we have presented.